Welcome back from talking about communication and what happened yesterday at the presidential debate. Time now to take a look at what's happening in your newspapers for today. And of course, the big story is the presidential debate. Let me quickly read the headlines here. Raila's 90 minutes in the limelight. No fireworks as the opposition leader with the stage all to himself after Uhuru snubs debate, argues his case for being hired as the 5th president of Kenya. Odinga pledges to accept result of election, assures public of peace, and wishes his rivals the best in the coming race. And of course, that picture there of him sharing some of his points alone on that stage. And the Standard, Raila has his way as Uhuru skips TV debate. Big debate, Uhuru keeps off debate after putting off Samburu Chua, handing Odinga wild ticket to defend NASA controversial stand on issues like tallying, integrity, and alleged rigging plans. Of course, one of his quotes there is, NASA tallying center is in Kenya. I repeat, Kenya, and in the clouds. We have come here not just as opponents, but also to look for solutions. Let me introduce my panel to help me go through the politics of what happened yesterday at the debate. Glad to have Dr. Jogo Barua, as he's told me just now. Congratulations. I don't know why you never told us earlier. Member of Parliament Gishogo. Gabriel Muduma, political analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Cynthia Mutere, glad to have you here. Chair.
Thank you for having us.
Women's League Ford Kenya. Also governance analyst, and of course Dr. Sam Kamau, political analyst. Welcome to the program. Let's get straight into it. Your take on yesterday's debate, and I'll start with you, Dr. Kamau.
Well, I am glad the debate finally happened. You remember there has been a cloud hanging on whether this will really take place, especially given what happened with the deputy, or rather the running mate debate. But I can say, looking at the two debates, maybe if I could start with the second tier debate, it was an interesting intellectual discourse, Wahiga, between some three learned gentlemen. There was a sense in which, of course, they were able to focus on issues. Maybe time was not adequate for them to give the specifics, and I think this was one key component of the debates yesterday. General, ideas, but really no concrete policy specifics that you'd see actual change. But the exchange was actually very good and very entertaining. I was disappointed that Dida did not show up because many people are looking forward for the comic relief that perhaps you'd have brought to that, I would call it in a sense, inconsequential debate. Okay. But going to the second one, I think this was the big one, and I would say there are two narratives coming out of it. One, of course, is that how Raila performed, and I would say in a sense, he did well to appeal. I think he was trying to appeal more to the undecided more than his base, because if you look at it, as the headline indicates, no fireworks really, and basically was able to be more measured in his approach and his closing remarks. You could tell he was targeting more the undecided, but I don't think he managed to excite his base, basically because the nature of the debate and the nature of the platform required him to be a bit more measured in his approach. The other big story, of course, is the absence of the president. I think there was expectation among everyone that perhaps he would show up, and what is the implication of that, and I think it's a big narrative coming out of this. But if I am a presidential candidate and I am given 90 minutes like Raila did, yes, I would make the best out of it, and I would say in a sense he tried to do that. Okay. The only issue is that given the research that we have seen in the past, it's not that presidential debates are really able to shift opinion. It is just, like I like calling it, a good spectacle that gives us a time to just view and analyze issues, but doesn't necessarily affect how people like. So the jury is still out on the implications of what happened yesterday. We'll be flashing the newspaper headlines every so often, just so that you can know what's happening in the dailies. But for you, Gabriel, you were at Catholic University. I saw you on TV. I was actually.
Why was there general disappointment there when the president did not show up? And that's, of course, the logistics now would have to change of how the debate would take place.
Well, not really. Even though we were quite entertained by the second tier debate, but after that, the energies were high, and you could see each camp, really moving forward to try and do the best they could do, spruce-wise, to try and engage with as many people as they could. But there was an element of disappointment. I can't go without saying that. You had so many people who actually felt that it was a good platform for His Excellency to show up. But what I also felt was that many people are looking for the fireworks, between these two candidates. There was the showdown, like Dr. would call it, and probably that's what made actually most of the Jubilee supporters, you know, a little bit disappointed. But away from that, there were key issues that actually made us get glued to what Raila was saying. A lot of it was about the, you know, the tallying, the tallying center, which he came out clearly to say there was none in Tanzania. So again, it was seen as calling out a bluff, which he did, and it was quite, you know, it was quite good for him to actually accept that. The other thing is actually what he said, and I give him props for this, Waihiga, when he said that he'll accept the results. These are some of the few things that people were, you know, were expecting, and actually he came out and actually cleared that. The other thing that he talked about, which actually many people kind of also gave him props, was the fact that he would try as much as possible to play by the rules. And I think that is one area where I feel probably the president was shying away. Not really shying away. There has been rumors, you know, circulating around. Why would I show up, you know, to debate with somebody who does not even believe in the institutions that we have? Why would I show up and debate with somebody who has...
Do you think that was the reasoning behind him not showing up?
It has been argued that. Personally, that's my view. But it has been argued that. And so when we take those views and we're like, okay, why did the president show up? Now, we all know he had a serious campaign in Samburu, which dealt with matters security. So could that have been more important than the debate?
I'll come back to you to engage more about that. Cynthia, what was the logic behind Raila's team when they told him go for the debate, and the logic behind Uhuru's team? Because I'm sure both of them consulted their teams heavily before they made that final decision.
The logic is, if you have read the 48 Laws of Power, Law 16 says using absence to gain honor and to gain respect, and I think he used it very well. And let me just start by even just saying I'd like to re-baptize this whole title. It's not a debate, it was a presidential interview. A debate would be between people, so we have a debate at the second tier of people, but then we have a presidential interview. We have an interview of someone now who wants to come in to be the president of this nation, and so he did it very, very well. He did it very well, and of course, as Daktari also says, that he seems to be very measured in the way he was speaking, and I think he's targeting the 5 million new voters, and I would right now say NASA is 15 million strong. He has gained 5 million on top of the 10 million.
Let me ask you one question that's been coming up about his debate. There were points where he stuttered. There were points where, for example, when he called Joe several times, was that just the normal nervousness that anyone would experience on such a platform? Was it that some of the questions were tougher than the others? You know, how do you describe some of those tough moments?
The tough moments is when you really engage and really exerting yourself and really digging into your resources and what you have and just bringing it out. And of course, the whole energy of the expectation of the people. You're also trying to. He's also on a mission to reach out to these 5 million voters and all that is just a whole conundrum of many things, I would say.
You know that question.
No, I have answered that question, Mutama, because you want to say that probably Mutama. Okay, let me call you Joe. Go ahead. No, because you can start off with someone, and you see I'm going to keep doing that, Mutama. You know, it kind of like, it's in the psyche, I suppose, when you start calling someone a name and you keep doing that, and you're like, no.
It's not in the psyche.
It's in the what?
Somebody made a very quick observation. He said, how could Raila remember incidents and events of 2008 with precision, yet you cannot remember this guy's name? He's Linus.
Stop there. Allow her to answer. Go ahead.
I would say it's something that even happens, it just happened right here, and you would find that, don't you ever do that when you keep calling someone another name?
I've called him another name.
Yes, I know even during this little brief interview that we have here, or conversation, that I'll keep doing that, but I know he's Muthuma and not Muthama, but it keeps coming out that way. I don't know what it is, in the subconscious somewhere where a name goes in and it keeps popping up, and so it's something that happens to all of us, and so you wouldn't say that his mental faculties are in any way challenged because of the history that he brings, the knowledge that he brings. Remember, this is an engineer with vast experience in Kenyan politics, and so that's able to really flow with ease, and so we were able to be treated to that, which is very impressive, especially to the 5 million that he's targeting. I know there's one change person in my household, my daughter really, who's going to be voting for the second time, but this time she was really like, I'm not voting for her. And I was like, what? You will? Because I influenced her first time. But now she actually saw Raila. There are people who've been born seeing these people on the political stage and playing, and they really didn't know him. I mean, you see him at the rally, and you just get to know the Mutu Vitanda. But then when you get to listen and watch that debate, then you're like, your eyes are open. Oh my gosh. And he is so good.
So
in the time
he was able to convert.
He was able to convert, yes.
Let me get
Yes,
Dr. Barua. Dr. Barua, I also want to ask you, I know you're not holding brief for Uhuru here today,
No.
but why didn't he show up? The messages we've been getting from 6 a.m. from across the country, why did he not show up?
First, I would like to make an attempt to say why he didn't show up, but before I get there, I would like to comment on Joe issue, because somebody asked, is that just nervousness or what? But what is known is that sometimes when you get a certain age, you know, a human being, there's what we call long-term and short-term memory. So as you age up, you tend up to create what is in the short-term memory tend to disappear. What's in the long-term memory persists. That is why I'm going to get that point. I'll give you a chance, my sister. What I'm saying is that the older people tend to remember the earlier issues and forget the new issues. For example, an old man suffering from dementia may not remember the names of his children, but he can remember the names of the people he played with 70, 60 years ago.
Are you trying to
what I'm saying here is that the
did not have access to his full faculties?
What I'm saying is according to responding to your question here is that there are two parties here to play. They are the organizers and the people who are supposed to participate. You cannot apportion failure only on the participants. Even the organizers were duty-bound to ensure that the people they invite do attend. So I still suspect that there was no proper arrangement, no proper organization which could have convinced the president to come and attend that debate. What I know and for sure is that even Raila Odinga was threatening not to attend even the last few minutes. The other issue is that for presidential debates like the American studies, they are actually organized by the Presidential Debate Commission or something of that nature, which is not a limited company. This one is organized by a limited company, and most of the issues about the invitations have been coming through the media. So I think the organizers in the future should work hard to ensure that the people they invite, they convince them this is the right time for you to come. So I think the president did not come because, number one, he's the president of Kenya, he's busy. Number two, the organizer was not clear of the rules of engagement, did not even know whether the other people are coming, and hence maybe in one or the other the president did not get the right communication at the right time. Finally, on the second tier debate, I think it was interesting, but also I would tie it to what Raila said when he was defending both Kenyatta and Uhuru and the Raila Odinga family. He was saying that I'm not in politics under invitation of my father. Neither is Uhuru under invitation of his father, which I think was very hypocritical, because Raila is what he is to a large extent because of being an Odinga. Uhuru is what he is largely because of being a Kenyatta. If you look at what was being said by the debaters who were there before us, I mean the panel which was there before us, they were calling the second tier debaters intellectuals. So you wonder, how comes intellectuals cannot rise? They have what it takes to be president, they have what to be governor, but they don't surface because they don't have the mafuta that can oil them.
In fact, you're asking us a question that you should answer because
I'm answering, yeah,
you're answering it now.
I'm answering it now.
Okay.
Because they don't have what it takes to propel them to those positions.
We'll need to talk about that a bit more. Let me bring Dr. Kamau in. A question here someone's asking. It's sad that the media cannot grasp a simple truth, that Kenya's voting patterns are not formulated by radio talk shows or live presidential debates, and believe you me, every Kenyan, including me, will vote according to tribe and such persuasions come that day, whether or not our candidates are on radio talk shows or live presidential debates. They don't give us their name or where they are messaging from, but how do you respond after what we've seen over the last 2 weeks?
Well, Higa, of course, we have to acknowledge that two key drivers of voting in Kenya, the number one is ethnicity. The second issue is political party affiliation, and they are the two key drivers of how people vote. But you have also to acknowledge that there is a crop of people who, for one reason or the other, have not made up their mind.
Okay.
And I think the media provides a good opportunity. Actually, presidential debates is a voter education exercise where people get to interrogate and get to analyze and evaluate the candidates based on the issues they are presenting and therefore make up their mind. That means then there is a place for the debates. What I said earlier is that research does not support that, does not show that people are normally necessarily swayed by presidential debates, but it's a healthy exercise in terms of helping people, number one, the ones who are undecided or who are not so emotionally vested in the process, to be able to make up their minds. The other thing we have to look at, and again it goes back to one of the issues we have discussed, the decision, for example, by Raila Odinga to attend the debate, and the decision by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta not to attend the debate could be informed by one of these realities that is coming up. What will you gain and what will you lose by attending or participating in this particular debate? I am very sure Raila and his advisors, or they managed to convince him, actually by attending this debate you'll be able to make a pitch for these people who are not yet decided or who are wavering. Because I think if we are to believe the opinion polls, the number of undecided people, for example, in an area like Western, I think that is where the highest number of undecided people is. In a sense, it means then that NASA has not quite consolidated that particular base, and therefore, in a sense, Raila may want to appeal to that. But again, you consider for Uhuru, we have seen the opinion polls. Even if there are questions around their credibility, at least they tell us that the race is tight, and both are actually close to 50. +1, but not yet there. That means then the 5 million my sister is talking about, or those people who can, they undecided, whether they are 6 to 9%, is this the best platform to appeal to them? And I think that was the question or a consideration in Uhuru's mind in deciding not to attend the debate. So how else will he be able to engage these people? Did the exercise on Sunday, the Facebook live chat help to appeal to these people? And actually, who are these undecided people? So bringing all this together, I would say that presidential debates is a useful voter education exercise that would be one of the key contributors in helping people make up their minds, but it's not the only way. I am very sure that both campaigns know, away from the debates, there will be certain strategies and structures in place to make sure they make a pitch to these people who will help propel them from the 47 or 46% to the 50+1 that is required to win this election.
Okay. Gabriel, let's get into specifics now. Let's pick on some of the issues that Raila spoke about yesterday. Let's talk about the Rent Restriction Act. He was put to task about that, and he was asked how he would enforce it. And also towards the end, in his parting shot, he talked about low-cost housing. What's his argument about relooking how rent is managed, especially in low-income households, convincing?
Well, Higa, let me tell you something, and this is something that I think I've delved quite deep into. This is not a solution that the government can, or anybody coming into power, can really play around with, and it will work on very specific areas. In fact, I was sharing that discussion with Dr. Sam earlier on. If you look at a place like, and this is in no way, shape or form am I trying to diss this area. When you talk about rent, it may work in a given demography. For instance, you can talk about rent in places like Madare. You can talk about rent in places like Kibra. People will listen, and they can actually be swayed by the fact that you want to bring rent down. In a place like, we're giving an example, in a place like Kiambu, try and talk about rent. You'll come near lynching, because majority of these people are the owners. So you must come up with a very concrete plan of how you're going to use a government resource and build houses that are just done by the government and then given to the people, like the way Raila had started building houses in Kibra. That was actually a very good project, but how far did it go, and why did it not take off as intended? But the key and the critical issue, I think, when you come to talk about housing in Nairobi, is by actually decongesting a place like Nairobi.
Okay.
That is the only way it would work, and that's a very good policy if it's framed properly. Let us first ensure that we do not have as many people coming in. Look at Nairobi. When you look at Nairobi, we talk about 60% of our GDP coming from Nairobi, but look at it. In the realm of how big the Nairobi is compared it is a very tiny it's a very tiny thing. So how do we ensure that we decongest, take as many people as we can to other counties, build an infrastructure whereby you are not talking about people conglomerating in one in one small space. And I think the minute you start understanding the decongestion mentality, you'll get the answer. I take this back to if you look at even though it was not talking about housing, the Boston Big Dig project. It is how you dream. It is how you envision 50 years from now. And I think the fact that we did not see the issue to do with population, albeit the fact that President Moi kept telling us, you know what, nobody was listening at that time. This is an issue. This is, let me call it a political vice that has caught up, or an economic vice that has caught up with us because we did nothing back then. So if we had found ways to decongest the city, we would not be talking about housing, because by and large, the private entities are the ones, and it's me and Sam and our good sister Cynthia and Daktari. We take a loan from the bank. We build homes for rent, thinking, this is, for posterity, this is what will give me money, it will earn me some income when I grow old, and so be it. And by and large, you will find that the people who are building houses are private people. So when you talk about rent, they really want to hear, what kind of sound advice do you have? And when you say you're bringing it down, you have to explain to them, you're bringing it down as who? What do you own? Don't forget that in 2007, we had a very big, serious issue when you had one community largely saying that, you know what, we come to power, we won't pay rent. So I did see as if Raila handled that properly, and he did not give a clear answer. He did not give a clear answer as to how he would do that.
Cynthia to come in as well. Should we be talking about decongestion of the capital or rent control?
We should be talking about, it comes into the whole conversation of cost of living, and we should be talking about the actual materials, what it costs to actually construct a building. When you look at the high-rise buildings that come down in Huruma, or in the areas where the buildings actually do come down, you find that it just comes down like a pack of cards. There is no steel. There is no steel structure, no pillars to support a 5-6-story building, and that's where the problem is. Can we bring down the cost of building these residential houses so that it is affordable? And I think that's where we need to take our conversation. How is it cheaper for us to bring in cement from Egypt for 600 bob per bag, when in Kenya our own local product is about 700 to 800 bob? And so we need to be looking at that. How do we bring that down? And so when we address that situation, then I don't think you're going to be getting lynching in Kiambu and other areas where now the owners have been able to construct these buildings at a reasonable, fair price, and you can cost it. And so it is fair for everyone.
You're making a good point, but you still haven't answered my question. Raila
Did he address
Rent Restriction Act. Do you feel that that's the way to... First of all, do you agree with how he said it should be done?
Totally.
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 If you could allow me to weigh in just a little bit.
Okay. I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to say it. But I do agree with him.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, and then I'll come back to you, Cynthia.
It's a populist, idea that is actually not workable. My sister suggests that the cost of, building materials would help address the situation. But that's not the problem. It's a much more complex issue. For example, the cost of land. We saw yesterday, we read in the newspaper that the cost of 1 acre of land in Kiambu, around the Kist area, the one that is purportedly has been grabbed, is 100 million. So if I am going...
1 acre of land?
Yes, 100 million. In Westlands, an acre of land is about 450 million. The same in Upper Hill. So if I am going to buy a piece of land in the Degwa close to where I live, an eighth will cost me around 25 million, and I put up a flat. Generally, there is no way you can tell me that you're going to use the Rent Restriction Act to actually control, because I'll never break even. What I am saying, it relates to what my brother had said earlier.
The cost of construction has also affected the
in a sense, but to a very limited extent. The issue is actually the issue of land, the cost of land.
Okay, you
Because
raise
how
a
does it
policies that
appreciate?
raise a
but I was going to
question.
How
suggest
does
that
it appreciate?
it is not, this is a simplistic solution to a very complex issue. So just talking about rent restriction will not work. I even talking about just the cost of material, that is a good idea, but again it's still not workable. What we need to think about is, where do we all want to be in Nairobi? Because of accessibility. For me to be here by 6 in the morning, I need to live close by. If, for example, I love the idea of the Nairobi metropolis, when you're talking about Machakos, Murang'a, Kajiado and those places. If I could live in those places and get to Nairobi fairly fast, then it would be okay for me.
So let's get 45% of the national budget to the
that is what I'm
counties,
saying. His
and let the
proposal,
counties grow.
does not in any way
Let
address the
devolution
complex
Thank you very
much.
issue.
And therefore you won't have that urban rural
See, now you agree with
migration.
my point that actually the solution is
So
bigger than
it's-
the
I was not given
This
one
is my show,
solution.
Cynthia. Cynthia, thank you so much. Dr. Barua,
Yeah.
please come in to this debate as well. She's brought interesting aspects. She's asking why is the cost of land as high as some of the figures that he's given us, and he's saying, in terms of bringing rent down, it's not as simple as stating that you'll implement the rent restriction act. How kindly come in as well?
I think all the panelists are actually making sense of what we are saying.
So everyone has
because we are actually in a discussion, we are enriching each other's point of view. Indeed, we are not fighting. But I would like to say that what is important is spatial planning. For example, what can make me, like me, I come from Kirinyaga. It's only 100 kilometers from Nairobi. If there was a train that operates from there, I would report in the morning to Nairobi and go back and work there. For example, we have gone to Europe. There's a time I was actually in a meeting in Bonn, and I was living in Cologne, and I could take a train every morning and was there on time. So infrastructure is very important. What my sister is raising here is also very important, because talking about security. When you have a whole 6-tall building without steel, it means that those people are actually living insecure. But that does not answer the issue of rent, how much somebody should pay. What I say is that you cannot just make a proclamation that the rent will come down.
Okay.
You must first of all consider what are the inputs. What did this person who put at this house put in this investment, and what are the returns? And what time do you expect for you to get a return on investments? So what we are saying here is Raila Odinga should stop being populist and do politics from a practical perspective. This issue of rents in Nairobi and congestion is a long-term initiative. It will take maybe 50 years. Let's look big. Let's just don't look inside the box. What is happening is people in Kenya, some people in Nairobi, are feeling as if they are being deprived what they have for political expediency. Let us not have politics for subsistence, for short-term gains.
Okay.
So what you want, I like ask Raila Odinga to do, I do respect him as a senior Kenyan, is that let us give us practical solutions as he is looking for votes. You cannot just, it does not earn you anything for Kenyan just to get the votes, then you lose the entire country.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barua. Now, if President Uhuru Kenyatta had shown up, for the debate yesterday, I would have then asked you about his policies and what he said. Because he didn't, I can't. Maybe what I can ask you, and I can begin with you, Dr. Kamau, did Uhuru make a terrible mistake by not showing up yesterday? Some schools of thought feel that he did.
Well, definitely there are concerns both among his supporters and even those who are not necessarily supporters. I know by attending the debate, it would have enriched the conversation. And remember, the other thing that I said a little bit earlier is that it's making an appeal or a pitch to people. You see the kind of discussion we are having here. We are trying to propose logical solutions to actual issues. But maybe what Raila said is just what he needed to say in regard to the rent issue, to appeal to certain people, and it will work for him. But in a sense, I would say the president missed an opportunity to speak, or maybe assure, the way Raila did towards the end. He was able to assure the nation that actually, even if the campaigns are so spirited and there's a bit of tension, he will accept the results, the outcome, and he actually spoke and reached out well to Uhuru. He played the elder statesman, and I love that. On the part of the president, remember I said his decision to appear or not to appear was actually informed by certain considerations. There were certain concerns, and on the side of the media, of course, we knew and there was indication from State House or from his communication team that he was not planning to attend, but the media kept advertising that actually the president will show up to the last minute, actually creating that expectation, which in the sense explains part of the disappointment, because there was still that expectation. But I think he had made it clear, or somehow it had been communicated very well, that he was not going to show up. It was informed by the fact that if I attend this debate...
Are you giving us definitive information you have, or it's your theory?
No, it's my theory. I'm here.
Okay. I thought
you
might have seen an email we have not seen. Go ahead.
It's my reading.
Okay.
It's my reading. It's my reading of the institution.
Okay.
But he must have decided that by attending this debate, it will not necessarily take away from me the support that I already have, and maybe this is not the best platform for me to engage with the key demographics that I need to get to the 50+1. So it's not that he downplayed the debate, but perhaps he thought there is a better way. And in a sense, the fact that he never attended and we are spending so much time talking about him means he could have scored in. Maybe he has gotten more publicity than he would have gotten if he actually attended. I will not call it a mistake. What I don't know is, or what I would want to understand is the strategy behind this decision, because there are people who feel maybe by attending it would have enriched the debate, it would have actually benefited him and get a chance the way it worked for him in 2013. But remember, 2013 he was not the incumbent. When you're an incumbent, there is a sense in which, like we saw with the Nairobi gubernatorial debate, the other aspirants actually spent the entire time talking about Kidero in that sense. And perhaps these would have been that kind. Maybe those are some of the considerations that would have gone through his mind. But I think the question is, did he win or lose by not attending the debate? And I think that is the other question you haven't
and what's the answer?
Who are the winners and who are the losers?
So, okay, quickly, to you, who was the winner yesterday, who lost?
In terms of who won, if I could start from there, Dr. Ekura Aukot won. And Wanjiko, because she had a chance to actually look at these candidates from the second tier debate and even the actual one, in a sense. Raila also won by actually attending the debate. The media also won because of having planned this. They actually hoped it would happen. We have to admit that the one of last week actually flawed, because it never happened the way that was expected.
Who lost?
Who lost? I would still say Wanjiko lost, even if I said she won, because of not getting a chance to evaluate between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga in terms of their proposals, specific policy proposals and how to move the country forward. So in that sense, I would say Wanjiko lost. I would also say the media lost, even if I say they won, because a good debate, they would have done perhaps more to make to address the concerns that Uhuru's team was raising, because in 2013 he raised certain concerns after the first debate, and when they were addressed, somehow they seem to have been addressed, he showed up.
He attended.
So in that sense, I would still say the media lost. For Uhuru, I'm still not able to conclude whether he won or lost by not attending.
I'll cut you off there. Gabriel, did Uhuru win or lose by not attending?
Well, I think there's something that Cynthia said. He quoted in the Art of War.
48 laws of power.
And one thing I know, the rest of things that I read, there's the element that scarcity actually creates demand. Well, so that's probably what. And I'm not expecting the president to have just sat down and said, "I'm not showing up for debate." So, like Dr. Sam is saying, we have to satisfy the narrative as to why the president never showed up. Could it have meant that, I know the area that I need to concentrate upon, and these are the people that I need? Probably you're talking about the undecided voters. Where are they? How do I get out there, and how do I convince them that, I'm still their man for the second term? Could it have been that? We do not know. But you're talking about the winners and losers. I think the second tier debaters really, and this is my view.
Okay.
I think the presidency is a very important office. And what I saw, and I'm not really, watering down their ambitions, is they came out with what I would call a serious educationist kind of platform. This is a place where you need to be politically, I don't want to use the word entertained, but you need to be politically in tune with Wanjiko. The presidency, like I put yesterday, is a political ecosystem, and you must understand brightly. I have not seen none of them, including Dr. Ekot. I've not seen them do a serious campaign. Do you remember in 2008 when President Obama back then was running for president, and people were saying this young guy does not have what you would call executive experience.
Exactly.
Somebody from the works came in The former President Bill Clinton, he said he may not have that experience, but look at how he's run his campaign. Give him that. True to the fact, Obama ran some of the most successful campaigns you've ever seen. If they had nothing else politically, we would have wanted to see how they would run their campaign. MCAs have run many campaigns than these three gentlemen. And I'm not saying, and I'm not saying really it's disastrous the way you just come and say I'm running for president, but we need to treat that office with an element of seriousness. Why are you running? You do not have just to wait.
Did they bring the seriousness
no,
that you are looking for?
I didn't see because
an intellectual
exactly. I didn't.
Discourse.
You see, I want you to come and say when I was campaigning. I would like to see how Dr. Ekuro would do in Kiambu. I'd like to see what Dr. Wainaina would do in Nyanza. I'd like to see how Kabinga would do in Eastern and Northeastern. There was none of that. You're just coming because you've had, you know, the media conglomerating and you have your 15 minutes of it. And that's how DIDA came to being. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, really, but kindly we would need to take that platform with the seriousness it deserves. And I think once we do that, then we are starting to mature in that particular office. You don't show. There has to be some element of political goodwill. And that is what these three gentlemen didn't have. But coming to the fact, I give him 10 marks. I give him 10 marks. For showing up and actually articulating several things which I never thought he would say. For instance, saying that he would accept the results if they are free and fair. Kudos to that, because that one you would see he was encompassing the element of peace, and that's really what we need. So there, on that element, I think Raila took the prize home. Okay. The fact that Jubilee enthusiasts are still really disappointed, you know, we have to wait and see.
Good. Cynthia, winners, losers?
I'd say let me start with the incumbent, the president. I think he lost yesterday. Lost of all the things that he has done for the past 4 years. And before I even continue, is to even say that he's one president that was able to demystify State House and the presidency and the president, because he opened up State House. Of course, it became a whole KICC. All the conferences and meetings were held there, but then we were able to have a closer glimpse into the presidency. And he's just been, I mean, like when you look at the clips, the advertisement that they've been running just before primetime news, you see just how he's so really personable and just meeting with people. And I think he lost yesterday by just when the people call you out and they want you to come. It's like a child calling out to their parent, and you need a response. You need them to be present when you call, not when you show up when you want to show up. So that level of arrogance comes through, you know, like I'll do things the way I want to do it. I will be personable when I want to be personable. I will show up when I want to show up, and I will not when you guys require me to show up. And so that kind of takes away from what he's really done. And so I think he lost on that. The person who really won, I want to agree with what Astari said here, is of course Wanjiko, and just having some of those questions answered, seeing Raila in a different light. There's so many people who didn't know him, apart from the narrative they hear probably just from Jubilee and from the media and what they've just seen in the papers. They really have not known Raila, and they were able to know him. You get to know him in a different way when, like you say, that he speaks from history. He brings in. Yes, you get to know him because I know for a fact that he has one more voter at least from my house.
That's fine.
Because he's able.
He
was able. He needs two more.
He
got 5 million more, I tell you, from the new voters. It is 15 million strong. I'm telling you that.
Not even 5 million. Okay.
Before I got, Dr. Barra really comes out and says that, and it's a pity that he's a legislator. He knows what it takes to bring in an act. If there's Rent Restriction Act, there've been technocrats, there've been meetings, there've been a lot of work that goes into that. So it's not like Raila was daydreaming yesterday and just came up and just did something, a populist speech that he gave there. There's a lot of work that has gone into an act and in legislation that you know, and that's what you do. And so it is wrong for you to just say that Raila takes this stage and does his own populist thing. That's not right.
Dr. Barua, you can respond as you also give us your winners and losers.
From her point of view, she says I'm wrong. I can't dispute with her. That's her position. So I'll just move on. I'll just say that first of all, the losers. What was that to be lost? First of all, is an opportunity to talk to Kenyans. There was also entertainment. That if the president came, could have been more fiery, and maybe that's what the media was looking at. Or not the media, the organizers.
What about votes?
Are looking at. The other issue is votes. The other thing is votes. What I would say is that even when I listen to Raila Odinga, there are two things I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to hear him mention the word devolution. I didn't hear, because he's been talking about devolution in all his campaigns. So by Uhuru not coming, he was not activated enough to remember some of the things he could have used against Uhuru Kenyatta. The other thing he never mentioned, maybe I missed it because I was listening from the radio of my car, is he never mentioned about the standard gauge railway, among a few things, which has been talking over through his 450 campaign meetings are held in Kenya, or so and so. So Raila, by not having Uhuru on the stage, lost the energy to discuss the things that are used against Uhuru. Me, I'm a chemist in my first profession. I already know is that a reaction becomes spontaneous only when you get enough activation energy. So after you get activation energy, the chemical reactions goes the other side and becomes spontaneous. So Raila lost because he never became spontaneous.
So who are the winners, Dr. Barua?
What I'm saying,
they are winners.
They are winners, of course.
Okay.
The other thing is that
It's just choosing
just a minute, rubbish. No, wait a minute. Based on the way they organize the meeting was, just a minute. Based on the way the forum was organized, Uhuru was a winner because he never went there, and he did not attend because of no proper communication and discussion on the whole arrangements. The other thing is Uhuru won because what was planned to be fiery against him, and being the incumbent, I'm sure Raila and his team had organized many punches to punch Uhuru, which did not take place. So Uhuru did not miss his votes. He lost the opportunity to talk to people, but the votes he retained. Okay. So I want to ask Kenyans now too, when they organize such forum, I'm waiting up now.
Okay.
The other thing I'm talking about, what you're talking about Obama, the difference in the second tier debate, what is actually the mismatch there is because these people have the content, but they don't understand the environment. If you look at Barack Obama, he left his work as a Harvard school professor to go do community organizing. That community organizing helped him to understand Wajiko. Ekuro and the others do not actually understand the environment. There's a difference between Jogo Barua today and Jogo Barua 4 years ago, because I have a bigger understanding of the people who I serve. And that is what academics of today should know before entering the parliament, to the political campaigns.
Thank you, Dr. Barrow. Let me quickly read what people are saying on 2242 even as we wind up. We've got a lot more lined up on the Power Breakfast show. Lillian says, Raila says the government will build low-cost housing on government land to allow low-income earners a decent livelihood. He's not talking about private landowners who have built houses in their own land. So she's responding to what some of my panelists here have been talking about. Another one here, Veronica from Nakuru says, Wahiga, good morning. The debate cannot change our minds on who to vote for. We have already made up our minds. What we wanted to hear is only about our safety after voting, and if politicians or all politicians will accept defeat. We only wanted our politicians to confirm our safety. Let me see what else here. What's the estimated number of voters that attended the interview through media and physically to listen to this debate? Well, we don't have those exact figures. Some have put it that about 8 or 8.5 million Kenyans were watching this debate. So just conflicting views on who are some of the winners, who are some of the losers. Thank you to everyone who's sent in your messaging. This is a debate that we can carry on our discussion, because the debate was supposed to take place yesterday, as you've reminded us. This is a discussion that we can carry on for a long time, but we need to take a break now. Thank you to my panelists for taking time to come here and be with us. We've got so much more lined up on the Power Breakfast show immediately after this.